Hello friends, welcome to the series of modern history. In my first video, I discussed about the arrival of the Europeans, wherein I gave the introduction about Vasco da Gama. Now, when Vasco da Gama landed up here in India in the year 1498, thereafter they started establishing their trading centers, and slowly they started indulging into the political affairs of the coastal areas of the country. Now here in the subsequent videos we shall be discussing who were the Portuguese governors and how they established their political powers in India, what were the policies that they had adopted, what were the various things that they introduced in our country. Now the most famous Portuguese men from the point of view of India, Vasco da Gama, Almeida and Albuquerque. Now as I told you, Vasco da Gama, he was a navigator. He was the one who found out sea route to India in the year 1498, and thereafter Francisco de Almeida, he came over here and he was appointed as the first governor of Portugal in India. So the first governor that was appointed in India was Francisco de Almeida, and thereafter the second governor was Albuquerque. Albuquerque, he was the second governor. Now, why did they appoint the governor? In order to control the administration, especially the trading administration. They started, and their plight was very clear. Their aim was very clear. Slowly and slowly, they wanted to establish the political powers, and they wanted to be the rulers in our country. Now, Vasco da Gama, as we know, he initially landed up in our country in the year 1498. Thereafter, he went back to Portugal, and when he went back to Portugal, he had earned a lot of money, and more than 60 times of his expenses he had earned by trading or indulging in the trade. And he requested, initially we know that Vasco da Gama, he had requested the local king, King Zamorin. As I told you previously also in a previous video, it was discussed. Vasco da Gama was very much welcomed by the King Zamorin, who was the local king at that time in the year 1498. Initially he was welcomed, but then they started establishing their own policies. The policies of gaining the political power, the policies of gaining the power. Now he requested, Vasco da Gama requested King Zamorin, you just allow only the European traders, that the Portugali traders here. But King Zamorin, he said, no, I can't. And he wanted that the Muslim traders, they should be rooted out, they should be thrown out, they shouldn't be allowed to trade here in Kerala. But Zamorin refused. So on his refusal, he was bombarded, right? The fight took place, but later on, King Zamorin had to surrender, and he allowed Vasco da Gama to build the first fort. So the first fort, it was constructed at Cochin by Vasco da Gama, and thereafter one more navigator came to India, and that too he also landed up there in Kerala. His name was Pedro Alvarez Cabral. So Pedro Alvarez Cabral, he also came as a trader. He was also a navigator. And second trip of Vasco da Gama, it was there in the year 1502. And the third trip, it was carried out in the 1524, and he died there at the Fort Cochin and was cremated there at Francis Church. But later on his remains were brought back to Portugal. I hope you won't be getting any questions on it, but you should be remembering that Portuguese were the first one to land up in our country as a European. Vasco da Gama, he found out sea route to India, and he came to India via Cape of Good Hope, and he was being welcomed by the king, the local king, King Zamorin. The Don Francisco de Almeida. Now, Don Francisco de Almeida, he was the first Portuguese governor who was appointed over here, and he established the policy of blue water. Now you need to understand, here the question comes in your competitive exam, which policy was adopted by Don Francisco de Almeida? He had adopted the policy of blue water policy. Blue water policy means establishment of the strong naval power. Now, slowly and slowly they wanted to become the rulers. They wanted to gain the power. So that is the reason he was the one who had established strong navy, and for which they called it as the blue water policy. That means the harbor should be under the command and the control of the Portuguese. In 1507, the Portuguese arrived at Madras. The city finally got its name from their leader Madra. As we know, probably most of you may not be knowing that in 1507, Portuguese they arrived at Madras, and their leader who landed up at Madras, the leader was Madra. That is why earlier Chennai was being known as Madras, but now the name is changed. So Madras was what I mean to say, it was the Portuguese name which was given in the name of their leader Madra. He created fortress at Kilwa, Anjediva, Mannor and Cochin. In Kerala, all these fortresses were created by the Portuguese people. Slowly and slowly, you can come to know, you can understand that how the Portuguese, they tried to establish their power in India. Now the next one, the second governor was Albuquerque. Albuquerque was the second governor of Portugal in India, and he was perhaps called as the greatest Portuguese governor, and he was the one, he is considered as the establishment or the founder of the Portuguese authority in India. He captured Goa in 1510 from the Bijapur king. So बीजापुर का जो राजा था उससे इसने जो गोवा छीन लिया, and they continued to rule in Goa till 19 December 1962, and till that period Portuguese people, they were ruling here in Goa, and mostly they had established their empire in Goa and Kerala, and they adopted the policy of, he promoted the Portuguese people that the Portuguese people, the Portuguese men, they should marry with the Indian women, and he persecuted Muslims. He did not favor the Muslim people. Rather, he wanted that the Portuguese, those who are arriving over here for the trading purpose and so on, they should get married with the Indian people. That is the reason. Even today also we find that in Konkan area or in the distinct Goa state or some parts of the Kerala, we find that still there is a presence of Portuguese culture because they ruled over there for a longer period. And in fact, till 1960s, the Portuguese rule was established, Portuguese were ruling there in Goa. At the time of Albuquerque's death, Portuguese was the strongest naval power in India. They had established the strongest naval power in India. So this is all the history about the Portuguese. He tried to abolish Sati Pratha. Now Sati Pratha, it was very much prominent in India. You need to understand, William Bentinck as well as Raja Ram Mohan Rai, they were the one who tried to ban Sati Pratha, but Portuguese were the one who had taken the initiative to ban Sati Pratha in our colony, and his policy, mixed colony system, that means the intermarriages between Portuguese and Indians. So these were the things which are associated with Albuquerque, and they also adopted the policy of Latinization. That means converting the people into Christianity. That is the reason even in today we find more people are converted to Christianity in Goa as well as in Kerala state. These were the various policies which were adopted by Portuguese when they ruled here, rather when they tried to establish power over here in India. Initially they came as the traders, but later on they became the rulers. Albuquerque captured Goa in 1510 from King Bijapur, At the time of Albuquerque's death, Portuguese, it was the strongest naval power. And one more question that comes. The initial capital of Portuguese was Cochin, but later on they transferred their capital from Cochin to Goa in 1530. So 1510 Goa was captured by Albuquerque, but later on the capital from Cochin to Goa was shifted by Nino de Cunha, who was the governor during the period 1529 to 38, and he was the one who transferred the capital, Portugal's capital, from Cochin to Goa in the year 1530. In 1530, Nino de Cunha acquired Dev Basai. Now here it is Basin. Basin, now today's area, it is called as Vasai, which is near Bombay, from Bahadur Shah of Gujarat and Martin Alfonso de Souza. Now later on, one more governor came over here. Now if you visit Goa, you will be finding there is a old Goa church. There is a old Goa church, an old Goa church, wherein the dead body of the famous Jesus saint Francisco Xavier is kept. After every 2 years, this dead body is taken and the huge procession is taken out in Goa. And Martin Alfonso de Souza, who was the governor during the period 1542 to 45, he had brought along with him the saint Francisco Xavier, and the sole purpose was to spread the Christianity, to convert the people, Hindu people, into Christianity. And later on, when he died, his dead body is still there in Old Goa Church, which is there in Goa. And even if you go over there today, you will find that there is a dead body of Saint Francisco Xavier. So this Portuguese lost Hooghly in 1633 during the reign of Shah Jahan. Slowly and slowly the decline started. The conflict for the establishment of Latin Rite and Syrian Rite led to Cunanu Cross Oath incident. So this, you don't get the questions on it, right? These were the religious fights that had taken place between the Christians, Protestants, and what I mean to say, on the religious ground they had fight. You don't be getting any questions on it. And here you get the questions, right? The Portuguese in India, when they ruled over here, when they had established their political powers over here, they had introduced agriculture products in India which are still in use. Cashew nut. Cashew nuts were introduced by Portuguese. Here you get the questions, right? What were the agriculture products that were introduced by Portuguese in India? Cashew nut, coconut, custard apple, pineapple. These were the things which were introduced by Portuguese in India. I hope in the series of the videos related to the modern history, the important topics you need to understand, right? Who were the powerful governors? Francisco de Almeida, Albuquerque. Who was the saint who came over here in Goa, right? What was the earlier capital of the Portuguese, and so on. So if you remember all these things, one or two questions, if you go through the previous year questions, you will come to know rarely one or two questions were there. But in order to understand the concept of the modern history, this series of videos is necessary for you so that you can understand. Now they introduced tobacco in the court of Akbar. Portuguese authority in Indian seas remained up to 1592. And one more important point that you need to remember. The Portuguese started the first press in India at Goa in 1556. The first press was started by the Portuguese in India in Goa, and the first Portuguese fort in India was constructed at Cochin. Portuguese captured Goa from the Bijapur Sultan in 1510. Already we have discussed. And one more thing, what had happened when Portugalese had captured Bombay, and the Portuguese king, one who was the king during that period, 1661, that time the Bombay, it was still under the command and the control of the Portugalese. And when Charles II of England, he married with the Portuguese king's sister, right? He gave the entire Bombay as a dowry to the Charles II of England. This question also it had come in previous examination. You need to understand why it was given, why Bombay was given to Charles II of England, because he married with his sister, right? In 1661, the Portuguese gave Bombay to Charles II for England for marrying his sister. The Marathas captured Salsette and Vasai in 1793. Now the war began, right? In order to defeat each other province, they started fighting with each other. In March, the Dutch East India Company was formed. Now here we see that the end of the Portuguese, but now here again the Dutch basically they are the people from the Netherlands, right? And Netherlands, two three things that you need to remember. The International Court of Justice is located in Netherlands and the place is The Hague. It is declared as one of the UNESCO Heritage Building. The United Nations International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice is located in Netherlands. And one more important question that comes in the examination related to the Netherlands. Rotterdam. There is one place in Netherlands which is very much famous for building the ship. Now in March 16, the Dutch East India Company, it was formed. The name of the company was Oranje Oost-Indische Company, Dutch United East India Company. Now Dutch people, they landed up here. We have seen the arrival of the Portuguese or the Portuguese in nutshell. Probably you are not going to get many questions related to the Portuguese and all, but you should have the thorough knowledge of the history from where the modern history begins and how come the Europeans they established their power in India right from the arrival of the Vasco da Gama. I hope you like the video. If you like it, do share it and watch this video. In the subsequent videos, we shall be discussing about the Dutch people, the French and the arrival of the English and their establishment of power in India and how we became the slaves and how we were ruled by the Britishers till 1947. These are all the parts which are related to the modern history. Thanks for watching the video. Thank you very much.